Welcome to the Future Fashion Initiative, the podcast where fashion meets purpose and style becomes a catalyst for empowerment. Each episode, we explore the intersection of personal empowerment, career growth, and conscious sustainable style through inspiring conversations with leaders, changemakers, and visionaries. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by marketing leader Laura Leonard, the current director of paid media at Holt Renfrew. Laura has had an exciting career scaling top brands in Canada, working both agency and client side to deliver exceptional results. Starting her career agency side, she's navigated the fast-paced marketing landscape to become a leader in her field, helping telecom, banking, and luxury fashion sectors make the most on the returns of their media investments. So welcome, Laura. Thank you so much for being here today for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Amazing. I wanted to kind of start off touching a little bit on your career journey because you've had a really exciting career journey where you've worked agency side, client side, you've worked in so many sectors and you have such a breadth of diverse experience. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you got started in media and what kind of drew you to this industry that's very fast paced and always having a lot of technological advancement and changes?
I think my start way back when my first role in the industry was at a smaller boutique agency at the time. It was called McKinnon Calderwood Advertising, now called MCA. And it was such a great start to my career because I was able to really be welcomed into this. It really felt like a family, and funny enough, the office was in this house they converted to an office in Mississauga, and it just had such a family-oriented feel, and I just felt so supported from the time I started. I got hired on before I finished university. I was really interested in kicking off my career, so I had finished my university degree. Like, I would work full time and do nights and online, and I finished it that way because I was just the opportunity presented itself after meeting the owner at the time through an internship I had done in the summer, and I just couldn't pass it down. And so I started a bit early, gung ho, and I was working on party poker, which this is going to age me, but at the time, online gaming was really accelerating, and it was a great client to work on and really fun and interesting. Their head office at the time was in Gibraltar. I unfortunately never got to go there. I started by I think I just was always interested in marketing and media because it was fast paced. It felt exciting. I'm very fast moving, and it just sort of happened. It was kind of osmosis, to be honest. But yeah, I was excited to start, and from there I moved to a larger agency and spent a lot of my career agency side up until probably 4 years ago.
It's so interesting how so many people's careers start with an internship. You go and you have an inclination like, oh, I kind of like this, but I don't know for
Yeah.
sure. And you go and you do a co-op, you do an internship, and you realize, okay, this is actually something I like, something I'm good at. And a lot of times those opportunities actually turn into full-time roles, which is exactly what happened to me too. So I think it's a good tip for people as well. I always tell people that are still in university, I'm like, go do as many co-ops and
Yes.
internships as you can because you get the experience, you get to figure out what you like, what you're good at, and then from there you also get to meet great people that, are supportive of you, and then, once you finish school, they might be interested in taking you on full time, which is perfect.
100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, the networking component of that, building your network, is a really big part of it. The owner of the agency at the time, actually, my internship wasn't even with the agency. It was with like an affiliate company he worked with. And I ended up working with him a bit through that partnership. but was very bold and reached out and asked if he'd kind of give me a chance, and he did. And I'm very, very grateful that he gave me that start in the industry. And my boss, my first boss there was, I'm happy to say, still a good friend all these years later, and was so supportive and still is. So it was such a warm welcome to this industry.
Wonderful. Sometimes you just have to ask and
Yeah.
take that chance, and you never know what will happen.
Yeah, 100%.
I know you've also studied business communication. You're talking about how you worked agency side. So, in terms of these experience, kind of starting out in your career, how do you think they helped you build a strong foundation?
I think agency side was really unique for a few reasons, and I'm glad I joined when I did. It was kind of, I feel, still a bit of the Wild West when I joined. It was a lot of fun as a young person to start in um, the ad industry, but it was great because you learned how to work hard. You learned how to manage differing priorities and a high volume. But you also got the opportunity to work on a lot of different categories. And that is very unique from being client side. Obviously, when you're client side, you're working on a specific business. But when you're agency side, you get the opportunity to really try your hand at different things and figure out what sectors you're interested in, how they differ, how they operate differently from just even a client service standpoint, how you need to work with them, but how they operate differently internally.
Hmm. And I also think having a solid experience in business communication is key because it can apply to any industry. And that was probably helpful for you because when you were agency side working in all these different sectors, you had that strong foundation in terms of, how to communicate, how to craft an email, how to get buy-in as well. And I think in terms of marketing tactics, you can even be a marketer in how you talk to people and how you get
Yes.
that buy-in and collaborate as well, I would say. So it's a
Yeah,
good
you need to, as a marketer, you need to learn how to create a brand for yourself. But I would say that's not just for marketers, it's for anyone. You do need to, those are sort of key competencies, I think, for any industry that you're in or any area.
Most definitely. And I think now with AI, I remember when I studied business communication at university, I used to have to write the emails with a pen and paper and get them marked in terms of, was this an effective email? Where nowadays people are just using AI for emails, but I still think the skill is so important
It is, yeah.
because, the AI can create it, but you need to read it over. You need to make sure it's still, getting the message across and that, we're using it in a way where we're still using that kind of analytical side of us as well.
I worry about, yeah, I mean, I think we all use AI today. We should be, or we're going to be left
Yeah.
behind, and it can make things like there's so many opportunities with it, and I'm so excited about it. But using it intelligently and in the right way is super important. And I mean, I think, I'm sure you've experienced it where you've received a message or an email, and you can tell it's been written by ChatGPT and it's very important that if you are using it, you still understand how to take what you need from that and apply your own tone and your own brand and your own thinking to it. I think it's a really dangerous space that we put ourselves in if we just give that thinking away.
And going back to your experience, both agency and client side, what are some of the most significant differences you experienced working in both environments?
So, yeah, it's a great question. I think very different environments in general. Client side is much more corporate, like your traditional corporate, I would say. Agency side, just by the nature of it, I would say there's a lot of young people involved in it. The hours when I was in it were always very long, very demanding, and being up to date on everything and just having the energy to be part of that sort of space just lent well to, I would say, a younger generation. I mean, obviously, generations span across the industry, but it was just a very, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but
Fun,
it was a fun space.
youthful, exciting
Yes.
energy. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. And that's definitely, I've never worked agency side, but that's what I've heard is that it's a really great place to start your career because it pushes you to try new things, work with different people, and it's great to be able to also, start out in a fresh environment with maybe not as much corporate hierarchical structure because then, you can maybe make more decisions and learn new skills more easily as well. So I think it's a
Yeah.
really great place to start. And then once you have that foundation, then going corporate side, I think is easier as well because you're like, okay, I know a few more,
Yes
of,
and no. Yes and no. I would say I thought the transition to corporate would be a lot easier than it actually was, especially because I was working with Scotiabank for 5 years,
Mhm.
running or overseeing their media at their agency, and then went internal. And I thought because I'd worked with them for so long and I knew so many people, this would just be seamless.
Yes,
And
yes.
like that was it, and it was a great experience. I still, am very connected with my old colleagues there. I, love the organization, and I had so many great experiences. But it was just such a culture shock, and I think acclimating to that after being on the agency side for so long took me a little bit to figure it out. The politics are very different. The expectations, I would say, are different. Especially a bank is a highly matrixed environment. Um, and agencies do have some of that depending on what type of agency you're at, but not to the same extent. I think a big difference that I found too, moving from agency to client side, was when I was on the agency side, your sole goal is to keep your client happy and help your client be successful. And you are always fighting for what you believe is right for your client, whether you need to do that internally or whether you're sort of trying to sell through ideas with your client and get them on board with the recommendation will drive the business the furthest. The difference when you go client side is, I would say that you have a lot of different responsibilities at that point, and like you are tied to very specific business results and metrics, and there is a point where you need to realize that what you may believe is right, it may not be right for various other stakeholders, and you kind of have to know when to move on.
Hmm.
Whereas I say, like on the agency side, I mean, certainly if a client didn't want to do something, you let it
Do
go.
it.
You might still say, I
Yeah.
totally respect that. I
Yeah.
really believe this is the thing we should do, but absolutely we can do it, whatever you would like. Um, but I would say you probably fight for it harder. You may bring it up again in another conversation, or like weave it in like a learning agenda. Terrible examples, but on the corporate side, I would say I've I've learned to just sort of, there's a point where you just kind of have to move forward and find a different direction.
Exactly. And you're balancing different priorities
Yes.
versus just focusing on, one goal of one campaign versus, okay, we've got to look at the whole view of how the company's working together and what are the specific metrics we want to drive. You might have an inclination you should drive it this way, but you have to be able to pivot and be flexible in your learning for sure.
And if you have a good partnership with your agency, I mean, I think now good partners, like the agency we work with, I'm very proud of, and they're great partners. And I mean, they care deeply about our metrics and results as a business as a whole. We're not just looking at vanity metrics,
Hmm.
and they're not either. So I think also it depends on your partnership. It depends, like the industry's changing. But at the end of the day, if something really tanks,
Hmm.
when your client side, you're the one ultimately responsible for that.
Hmm. For
And
sure.
so I think there's a deeper pressure with that.
Definitely. And in terms of the different sectors you've worked in, like telecom, banking, and now luxury fashion, what do you think is some of the unique qualities about the fashion industry that you've noticed compared to the other industries? How is it different? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's more similar than we might think.
I mean, retail is different. Retail is so fast paced.
Hmm.
Media is fast paced. But the two of them together, it's an interesting space to be. I mean, every day there's something different, which can be very exciting.
Yeah.
Um, there's some days where you wake up and, it's what you thought you're doing is completely opposite of what you end up doing. And it's a great opportunity to dig into things and learn. I think the fashion industry is different because I think you're always reinventing. The seasons are changing. Like your products, like we're a branded house, so we have a lot of different brands we work with, but the assortment and obviously seasonal fashion and trends are constantly changing. Whereas, like, if you're in automotive, you have your car models changing once a year. So it's just a faster turnover. I would say in retail, I mean, all businesses obviously care about numbers, but in retail, you live and die by your numbers on a very short cadence. Um, and I would say, like, when I worked in Scotia Wealth Management, it's just a much longer lead cycle. And so um, there's that pressure still on the numbers, but it's not on that same cadence or in the same way because the cycle for business is so different.
For sure. And you're in retail, you have to constantly be listening to your customer. What's the customer want? What's happening? How are the seasons changing? So it makes sense that, you have to be a lot more flexible and be willing, to react and change things up at the last minute, even if, maybe you had a plan for a couple weeks, right? So it allows you to challenge, yourself and your team to constantly be evolving. And I think it teaches you to have that flexible mindset, I'm sure, as well.
It does. I would say, though, also, every business now, with the way our world has changed, I think all businesses need to be reactive to trends in general, and good marketers, I think, recognize that. But yeah, retail feels like that's on steroids a bit.
I love it. So moving more into kind of some of the core skills for media and in general kind of success for young people that are starting out in their career. As a director, I know you're really focused on your team and making sure that you're really helping support their potential. One of the questions I'm interested to know is if there's any kind of core skills that you really look for in your team members or that you try and mentor in them that you think are really important to be successful.
Yes. I think I might, we all hire and look for skills in unique ways. I don't know if mine is the right way, but it's the way that I do it.
Yeah.
But I have always strongly believed that hard skills can be taught. I
Hmm.
mean, there's like obviously a certain level of competency at different levels of roles that you kind of need to have as the table stake. But what I've always looked for and hired on is the soft skills, personality, attention to detail, ambition, like your willingness to really dig in. Are you excited to learn? Are you excited about what you're doing? Are you going to be good to work with? Those are the things you can't teach, and those are the things that are most important. I think for a good culture, a good workplace, a good working relationship. And if you have those things, you can learn the others.
Hmm. I
Um, I would say the other thing would be like for women, particularly, I've always struggled with confidence, especially when I was younger. And I look back and wish I could just shake myself and like tell myself that I didn't need to be that insecure or I should
do.
have more confidence. And so it's really important to me that other women um, can be supported, and hopefully their confidence can grow, or hopefully they don't have the same issues with it that I did, or learn it a lot sooner.
Yeah. And I think everybody starts with that in their career, that feeling of, oh, can I really do this? Do I know what I'm talking about? Or whatever it may be. And sometimes it's just that willingness to speak up, to ask questions, that curiosity. And I think when you feel safe in an environment with a leader that, supports that, I think that also really helps young people grow. So in terms of like looking at companies or places you want to work, meeting with those people and understanding, okay, do I feel safe to bring my most confident self to the table as well with these people, I think is also really important, because I think once you have those mentors that, see that light and potential in you, then you feel, safe and confident to kind of, okay, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to bring it to the table. And I think too, we have to give ourselves some grace, because I think it's like this expectation of like, no, you just need to be confident. You need to do it. And it's, sometimes it's like, what? Confidence is a constant, it's a constant muscle we have to
Yeah.
flex and work on. And but I totally agree that it's something that we all need to work on. And when you're younger in your career, just try to stand up for yourself and speak your mind. And you might be surprised with how people respond, because I find when I was very early on in my career, the more that I would, present things as, this is what I think, and this is why I think we should do it, and here's why. And a lot of times you do get a positive feedback. And so with that positive feedback loop, it also helps, because then you're like, okay, more confident every time that I
Yeah.
work with people. Yeah.
Yeah, agree. I mean, I still struggle with it. I think there's ebbs and flows, right?
Yes, there
Um,
are, for
but I
sure.
think getting to a point where you kind of just have the confidence, to your point, to speak up, to know that what you're saying is grounded in good thought, good experience, good intel, and that you have the opportunity to speak up and be heard. It's so important.
For sure. And in terms of kind of specifically media, one of the things that I know we talked about in the past was the importance of writing strong briefs and how critical they are, and being able to, provide feedback. And I want to kind of get your perspective on what you think makes a good brief.
Nervous to answer this one because it
Yeah.
is so important, but if there's any people from creative agencies listening to this, they may disagree. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, I was told that if you can't explain something in a couple sentences or less, you don't really understand it.
Hmm.
And so I'm not saying a brief should be a couple sentences, but it shouldn't be a 5-page document. You should be able to concisely, in a very tight way, be able to talk about what are you trying to solve for? Like, do the who, what, when, where, how,
Hmm.
and put all the important information, I believe, in a good brief on one page. I don't think you need a million-page document to do it. I think you need to be concise. And ultimately, I think if you want really great work out of your partners and with your teams, you need to be telling them about what problem are you trying to solve at the end of the day. Um, and maybe there's going to be discussion, there's going to be questions around different aspects of it, but ultimately you want to give your partners the opportunity to help you solve it in the best way they know how, and understand what the core problem actually is, because maybe there's different ways around it.
Hmm.
And in an industry and space where you're constantly trying to innovate, I think that's the best way to get there.
For sure. And I think understanding what's your why behind it,
Yeah.
making sure that's very clear and understandable is really important. And, what's the one most important, fact or point or thing you're trying to drive, and really honing in on that as well. So that's a great, great Great part to think about. In terms of kind of the media space, I know it's very collaborative because you're working with teams all across the business to try and, drive results. And as we know, there's a lot of collaboration that's involved in that. And so, can you speak to some of the value of this kind of cross-functional collaboration that's you think has helped drive some optimal results in your career?
I mean, I hope, I have always tried to lead with kindness and empathy, and I hope the people that I have worked with have felt that. And I think the most important thing is the people and the relationships, and really taking an interest in getting to know other people, getting to know what it is that's driving them, what they're doing, and how you can support them, taking yourself outside of what your immediate needs are and thinking about what's going to help others, I think helps drive and forge those relationships that you need in a more authentic way. I think it also creates a level of trust because people know that you're thinking about them. They're going to come to you, and naturally want to talk about things more because they know that every time you message them or contact them, you're not asking for something. It becomes a two-way street. And I think that's to me the most important thing.
For sure. And I think one nice thing about hybrid working environments is you're actually able to connect with people in person and
Yeah.
build those relationships. And I think having that strong foundation is really helpful because then you're able to put a face to a name. You get to know each other as human beings and not
Yeah.
just coworkers.
Yeah.
And I think that also helps kind of drive collaboration in terms of getting to know people in person if you can, whether that's, going into the office, maybe going and having lunch together, whatever it may be, can also help to drive those relationships and get to know each other as people, as you said, and being kind and trying to understand each other and help each other. Because at the end of the day, I think that's for a company, we all just want to work together and drive the best results for everyone. So.
100%. Everyone wants to do a good job. Like I don't think there's anyone in a role that would say, I'd like to do a terrible job at this. I want to suck, and like
Yeah.
that's not how anyone goes into anything. And I
No.
think once you realize that, even if you're at different points or you disagree with something, coming
Mhm.
at it from the realization of like, okay, we're both trying to figure something out. We think this is best. Why do they think this is best? Why do they need it that way? And like trying to uncover it and have a conversation so you can come to an understanding, I think is a much better place to operate from. And I think when you have true collaboration, um, it takes time to create those relationships and trust, but you get to a point where, hopefully you have a relationship with other stakeholders where they want to come to you for your opinion, or they want to, give you the heads up on something or ask you about something. And that's where sort of, I think the magic happens, because when you're more surface level,
Hmm.
you're not getting kind of the meat of it.
Yeah, it's like now they're seeing you as a true partner where you can both work together and help each other. It's
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
Moving on to some more fun and exciting questions. Um, One thing I really love about Holt Renfrew is its legacy and focus on sustainable fashion. So that's something that I know with the H Project is really, really being driven by the company. And I actually was able to go into Holt Renfrew last weekend and visit the H Project in person, which is really cool to go on. I think it's on the third floor at the Bloor Street location. So that was really cool to go in and have that experience. And the other thing I really love about Holt Renfrew is how it's driving this in-person experience for customers, almost like it being a third space in the sense there's a cafe, there's, you can check out the shoes. There's so many different brands. There's, different levels in terms of, more affordable. There's everything from Skims to Chanel. And I just loved, being able to go in there. But back to the sustainability piece, the H project is something that, is great to see such a meaningful initiative. And I'd love to get your thoughts on it and how you see it kind of driving some change.
Yeah, I mean, I love the H project as well. I work with that team. I don't work on it specifically, but I can tell you that that team is so passionate and focused about making a positive impact on our customers, on our environment, on our communities. And every product that is brought in that goes under the arm of each project has to meet one or more of 6 pillars. And I won't list them all, but some of them can include like artisanal. Is it handmade? We have a lot of products. Like we have a beautiful, actually just did a video on it last week with our social team. But we have this beautiful dragon diffusion bag, and it is hand woven by artisans in India. And so that's been brought in under the H Project brand, and reasons because of how it's been made in such a thoughtful way, and the story behind it. Other, some of the pillars are like clean beauty. How is it impacting the environment with how it's made? Is it environmentally friendly? Is it sustainable? There's 6 different pillars, like I said, but everything is very thoughtfully brought in with sort of the, overarching thought of what impact is this making.
And I love that it's its own curated space and area where everything's kind of chosen and thought through, and being able to just go and peruse that and be able to, like, I can just stay in this section. Whatever I buy, I know that I feel that I'm, making a good decision in terms of, or helping our planet. So it's wonderful to see that. And talking on like the clean beauty piece, the other thing I really admire is the Bring It Back program, the TerraCycle program. So if you have any makeup that you're not using anymore and it's ready to go, what's really nice is Holt Renfrew is one of the few retailers in Canada where you can actually bring it back and they're going to recycle it for you. So that's something else that I think is a really wonderful initiative as well.
Yeah, we actually don't talk about that as much as we should, and it's a wonderful initiative, and I'm very proud to work there. And the company and the teams are truly committed to sustainability and to making positive change and impact. And it's just such a special place to be.
For sure. And in terms of like overarchingly retail, I do think with, the trajectory that Holtz is really focusing in on this space of almost a third space where people can come that's not home and work, and they can have this shopping experience. And I think it's a really unique brand value. And I think, especially now, a lot of us, people are really focused on well being and being able to go and have those experiences. And I think, everything that Holtz is doing in that regard too, I think is wonderful to see.
Yeah, we have some pretty. If you haven't checked out the cafe, we'll have to go. It's definitely a favorite for a lot of the staff, and not just because we work there, but because it's genuinely, I love the cafe. But if you haven't tried the BLT salad, it is a staff favorite. It is so good. It's at the Bloor Street Cafe location. But we also do a lot of high teas. So we're doing a diptyque holiday high tea right now, which is so lovely. Yeah, so
What a
there's
wonderful
lots
thing to
of
do for the holidays.
great experiences that you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what a wonderful thing that you can go and do for the holidays, a high tea.
Yeah.
That sounds like, the perfect thing to do as well. But that's
Yeah.
great to hear, from employer yourself, BLT salad.
BLT
Okay.
salad. Yeah, it is a favorite. We also have at the beginning, you get um, this like honey butter that they make in house. Also to die for.
My
Like I get
goodness.
cravings for it. It's so good.
Now I know the next place I'm gonna go when I want a treat. It's perfect. One of the questions I like to ask everyone, because one of my main focuses is my non-for-profit, where I focus on supporting women with clothing for job interviews to allow them to feel more confident when they step into new opportunities. And I personally have found a lot of confidence through my fashion choices and dressing well. And I feel like when I do that and I show up at work, it makes me feel like I'm ready for the day. And so I always love to ask people, how do you see the role of clothing for you? How do you feel like it helps you in terms of maybe boosting confidence or whatever it may be?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I obviously have always liked fashion that I'm at Holt's.
Yes. Yes.
So it's always been something that I liked. My friend told me at one point, she said, you were always a clothes horse. And I said, you know what, I forgot about that. But it was because after I had my son and COVID happened, I got into the full, I think, sweatpant mode. Like I was just wearing sweatpants. I kind of stopped. I don't know, the clothes horse thing went away. But after starting at Holtz, especially, I really kind of got my groove back, I would say. Like I just was much more thoughtful about what I was putting on in the morning, not because anyone would ever judge me there,
Mhm.
um, but just because I wanted to show up in a certain way. And again, like to our earlier conversation about like your personal branding, I wanted to show my best brand of myself there. And in doing so, I have definitely, I'm not a clothes horse because I think I'm too old to be a clothes horse now, but I've got my love for getting dressed again in the morning back, and it does make you feel better. How you present yourself to the world is part of your personal brand, but also when you feel good, like you said, like I think you just show up better.
Mhm.
And I just, I don't know if it's the best answer, but I feel better now that I sort of got that interest back and that care back.
Because you radiate, that feeling of, oh, I feel good about how I'm showing up today. And I think also just it's something about doing something for yourself and
Yeah.
like starting the day with like, oh, I did something for me to help
Yeah.
me feel good. And I feel like when you do something for yourself first thing in the morning, whether it's putting on a nice blazer or a nice top or, meditating or going to the gym, I feel like just starting your day like that, it just makes you feel like fresh
Yeah.
and ready to take on the day as well. And I think too, like we all have different styles and
Yes.
ways that we all like different colors. We all like to wear different things. And I think it's all about choosing things that make you feel your most comfortable and make you feel, what, I'm ready to take on the day today, whatever that is. It could be like, you know what, I'm just going to throw on this scarf that I love. You know what I mean? It could be as simple as that. Or, my mom gave me this necklace and I want to wear it today because it's going to make me feel good or whatever it may be. So sometimes
I,
those little symbols can help
yeah,
too.
exactly. I think one thing I was pleasantly surprised with, I remember when I first started here, I got a bit nervous of, oh my gosh, like, what do I dress like? And I am so inspired every day when I go into the office by so many of our colleagues because everyone has such an amazing personal style. And I love that our company really supports personal style and how people put things together. And it's not just about, whatever is out there, it's about what looks good on you, what feels good, what is your, you know, taste, what works with your life, what makes you feel good. And I think that's been a big change for me because I definitely used to just kind of buy more trends and I incorporate them now, but it's much more about like what feels like me, what just feels good. And I've definitely learned that from being there.
And what's timeless too, because
Yeah.
there's some items that like you could have for
Mhm.
10 years and it's always gonna look amazing as
Yeah,
well.
for sure.
What's your, just moving to kind of more of our rapid fire questions, what's one of your favorite brands or designers at Holtz right now?
Recently bought my first piece of Sakai, and so I'm gonna say Sakai. That brand is beautiful. It's beautifully made, really unique pieces, and a good friend of mine has loved that brand for a while, and so I checked it out, and I see why. Because it's such a beautiful brand, and we have some great pieces in the store right now. So we had our Christmas party last night, so I wore my purchase there.
Oh my goodness, I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'd say like looking at some of the brands that I'm always drawn to at Holt's is definitely Stella McCartney. I really like her stuff. And then I also like the brand Smythe. They
Smythe is
do
beautiful.
they do a lot of amazing suits, like power suits, and I actually got introduced to them through Dress for Success because one of the stylists we work with, Julianne Constantine, who's very well known in Toronto, she was dressing all of the women for the fundraising event in Smythe, and so that's how I was first introduced to them. And I just remember going, "Oh my God, these are the best power suits I have seen." So that those are definitely, I'd say, like two sections I always love to check out is the Stella McCartney and the Smythe, but now I'm gonna look into that brand as well.
You know what? I mean, Smythe is beautiful. They actually also, for the holidays, they have this like amazing two-piece sequin skirt and top. They just have some beautiful, cool pieces. I love that they're Canadian owned. Um, they're an amazing brand. I also really like Veronica Beard lately.
Mm-hmm.
That is a brand I've been checking out a lot. Frame is another great one. I mean, there's so many. We have Reformation now. We just got Ralph Lauren in. Like, there's just so many. Everywhere you turn, there's, some
Yeah.
other amazing brand. And
Yes,
I'm not saying this as a plug. I genuinely, it's
yeah.
so fun to go into the store.
It's genuinely a dangerous experience because it's so many amazing things when you go in there.
We have this right now. I'm eyeing. We have a lot of like great Canada Goose pieces, but we also have a Neen Bing, and there's this like really fun winter hat I was eyeing the other day with this cashmere scarf. So that's my new sort of
Yeah.
purchase I'm probably gonna make.
For Christmas time, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love it. That's
it's a lot
awesome.
of gifting for myself as well.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's great. And then moving on to some other questions. So, what is the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
A hard one because I've had some really great pieces of advice, and it's hard to distill it. One is like one that I always think of, and it's probably not the the best thing to share, but it resonated with me and it stuck with me. But I had a boss who once told me, um, "You're only as good as the last thing that you've done," and it's not necessarily true, but I do take it with me to think about how you show up in every situation
Mm-hmm.
impacts your personal brand. We all have mistakes, like we all screw up. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. So it's not necessarily that. It's not that like every single thing you do needs to be out of the park. I mean, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I would love for it to be,
Yeah.
but it's not always going to be the case. But I think how you show up and handle that and what you do with that information, it matters. And so if you have a great track record, but something doesn't work and you show up in a not great way, it's not going to completely undo everything you've done before, but it might it might affect your brand, and you may have to work to come back from that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a reality.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so
And I
that
think,
that has stuck with me.
mm-hmm. And I think it's a good reminder of even, if it's a smaller project or it's just a meeting or it's just this or just that, it's like still taking into account how you're showing up to everything, not just the big things, the small things too, because as you said, like that affects, your overall personal brand as well.
100%. I mean, I think I've had so many great ones, but another one, that stuck with me was, and I actually try to think of this a lot myself when I can feel myself uncomfortable, is if you are not uncomfortable, you are not learning or growing. And so when I get really uncomfortable and you want to just kind of go, okay, that's it, like I'm done, I just want to hide. Um, it's such a great reminder of, okay, but I'm learning. This is actually what I should be doing if I want to be growing and progressing and moving things forward. And so it's been a really great kind of grounding piece of advice for me. Um, because when I have those moments, we all get a bit anxious, or it's just a good reminder, I think, of, okay, this is not actually a bad thing to be uncomfortable.
Exactly. And I always think, when you're anxious or a little bit uncomfortable or fearful, I think when you push through that is where you continue to grow and learn too. And just knowing that, having that strength inside to know no matter what you're dealing with, you're going to be able to figure it out and it's going to work out. And just having that, I think, faith in yourself and your capabilities that you can take anything on, no matter how hard, and you're going to get through it, even if it's uncomfortable. But looking at, the
Yeah.
positive perspective of like, I'm going to learn from something from this, even if it's hard. And then next time it happens, I'm going to know how to approach it differently as well.
100%. And like the whole, I'm sure you've heard it before, but like learning really is messy.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not a linear process. It's
Mhm.
not, a checkbox list. Like it, it can kind of go like this. And sometimes it's not till you're on the other side of it that you realize, oh my gosh, I learned so much from that. I'm so grateful for that experience. And,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think if we embrace that more, I think we're better off for it.
Love it. That's such a good piece of advice. My last question is, what is your go-to productivity hack right now?
So maybe I shouldn't be sharing this because then everyone's gonna know my secret. But I learned when I was at the bank, actually. I block off time in my calendar to actually do work. And so sometimes it's really hard to find the openings to do that. But I try to get at least an hour a day for actual work by blocking it off in my calendar. Um, and I'm pretty strict about that time. So if somebody sends me an invite for something, unless it is like an absolute necessity, I will decline because I really treat that time as sacred work time, because otherwise you just get like your calendar will run you. And again, it's not always perfect. There are days where my calendar totally runs me, and it can happen quite often. But having that as sort of a staple gives me some semblance of time to keep things kind of moving and allow me to try to better manage my time.
Exactly. And I think it's good to have that white space so you can kind of think and take things away. And I think sometimes too, like ideas come to us when we're out for a walk after
Yeah.
work or we're, doing something else. Sometimes, having that space for yourself, it actually in a lot of ways I think makes you more productive because it allows your brain to really digest and think about things as well. So I think that's a really good hack or advice for
I mean, I'm
others.
sure other people can hopefully do it better because I end up using the time to respond to emails, I would say, at
That's
this
fair.
point.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. Yeah. No. But hey, the emails are important, and at least it's some quiet time for you to kind of focus and hone in on some of the work as well. But I think that's a really, really good hack.
I think it's a break for our nervous system a bit too, just to have that, like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think and that's so important too, is to stay grounded.
Yeah.
And I think for myself anyways, one of the things I've been doing is I have something called the Calm app.
Oh, I like that app.
Yeah, so it's got some wonderful, like even just like 5-minute meditations, 10-minute like even if I have a presentation and I just feel like I need to get grounded, I'll listen to like a 5-minute meditation. I find it just helps me kind of clear my mind.
Mm,
So I don't have the monkey mind and I can just
yeah.
go into it feeling really grounded. And so sometimes all it takes is like 5 or 10 minutes just listening to something and getting back in touch and getting back in your body and out of your head for a minute and grounding yourself. And I find that it gives me a lot of strength when I do that as well, helping me.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you do that is amazing. I wish I did that a lot earlier on.
Yeah, I feel like definitely I will say the wellness trend is something that I think has started around like I feel like COVID really hit us
Hmm.
and people started to realize like, oh, we need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah,
So I think that's also part of it too. I think it's definitely a trend where I think I notice most people are being a little bit more mindful with that. Where maybe I think in the past it wasn't something people really thought about doing. So,
yeah, it's true. I mean, I think I've learned as well that, if you don't, and I shouldn't say I'm practicing this super well, but I, if you don't listen to your body will stop you. And so, um, you do really need to focus on taking care of yourself, or you can't show up and do the things that you want to do, or because your ambition doesn't matter if you're sick. And it's just, I love that that's something that's such a big focus for people now because it's so important.
mhm.
But like even just small, like for me, I haven't been walking a lot lately because it's been so busy with the holidays and Black Friday and Cyber Money and all of that.
And it's also like -10 out. So,
Yeah. Although my husband did get a treadmill so that I don't
okay.
have an excuse. So today my goal is after work to just go for a walk. And like it's simple, it's small, but it's like that's actually super important.
Hmm.
And so I try to do kind of small, digestible little things to at least if you're one step forward, it's
Yeah,
something.
exactly. And they're going to add up over time. So I love that you're starting that and you're doing it for yourself. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this has been such a wonderful conversation. There's been so many hacks that you were able to share, but also so much information in terms of like differing situations and how you've learned from your experience and kind of big takeaways because I think a lot of times people are so focused on the information, but sometimes it's like the takeaways to think about, how am I showing up today? How am I showing up in every situation that are really important because sometimes we need to take a step back and
Yeah.
look at everything and say, okay, what have I learned from my career? What am I taking away from, some of my experiences and the challenges I'm facing? And it kind of helps ground us in what's important and how we
Yeah.
can kind of reframe our thoughts and our actions on a daily basis. So this has been such a wonderful, fruitful conversation. So I'm sure anyone who's listening to this has learned a bunch today.
I
So
hope
thank you
so.
so much, Laura, for, sharing this incredible journey and also your commitment to furthering kind of supporting other young women such as myself and also really focused on supporting some of the wonderful initiatives that Holt is doing to support our people and the planet. So thank you so much for joining. Please do stay tuned to the next episode, but thank you so much, Laura, for the wonderful conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.